Hello everyone and welcome back to I got to play with new exotics before you, Nana Nana Boo Boo, where today I got to play with some episode 2 exotics and you didn't. Not yet anyway, next week. I want to preface this video by saying that you will see some new episode 2 gameplay stuff, but there will be no story spoilers in this video at all, and as always with early footage, everything here is subject to change upon release. Exotics. Every new exotic for each class, one of each, is stasis themed. Now, you remember when people thought that Bungie was going to have an artifact that really focused on stasis because it had been forever since that happened, and then they, didn't? Well, episode 2 is actually the stasis artifact that you have been waiting for, and they are bringing 3 stasis exotics and a weapon as well, although as we'll discuss, it's not exactly super stasis themed. First, let's talk about exotic armor and warlocks. We're going to start with you. Warlocks, I would argue that you probably didn't even really need this exotic, but you still got it anyway. And I say that because this exotic is based on Bleak Watcher. Now, you're probably aware that Bleak Watcher Warlock is probably the best overall build in the game. Not to mention that it is probably one of the easiest builds in the game to execute. Well, Warlocks, introducing Rime Coat Raiment, where your Bleak Watcher turret is enhanced with more range, and it's surrounded by a stasis crystal storm. If you stand in it, you get icicles, which deploy and slow targets when you shoot at them. These robes are as good as they seem, but obviously the big comparison is against Getaway Artist. Getaway Artist is the main exotic that's paired up with Bleak Watcher Prismatic Warlock. It allows you to have an Arc Soul with you in addition to deploying the Bleak Watcher turret at the same time. So you would need to give up Arc Soul for a higher quality Bleak Watcher turret and the ability to slow enemy targets if you stay in the radius of the turret. There's also the Claw of Ahamkara and or Necro Claw variant of that Bleak Watcher setup, which focuses more on the melee side of things. But for now, let's just keep the comparison against Getaway Artist. To me, this trade-off is more than acceptable, but only if you're willing to actually play around your turret. Otherwise, you just have a slightly better turret, which might still be worth it on its own, depending on how you play or maybe what activity you're in. To me, I would want the benefit of both parts of this new exotic, so maybe I'm looking for activities where I can hunker down a bit more, your onslaughts, maybe select raid encounters, coil type activities, anything where you're more stationary for any particular fight that you might find yourself in. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, this exotic, at least in the limited time that I got to actually test it out, doesn't really change up how you will experience the Bleak Watcher Prismatic setup. It's still about getting Devour and just dropping a turret. It's just a different flavor of doing it. Unfortunately, there's not a ton in Prismatic that revolves around slowing effects or stuff like that, so the main value in getting icicles is to kind of use them like you have Chill Clip on your weapon. Chill Clip obviously is a very good effect, great for stunning champions and all that, but the turret itself does that pretty well over a longer period of time already. It's good for something a little more instantaneous though, something that you can control and that you want on demand right now. The only other stasis-specific competition is Osmiomancy, and don't tell me you're using Ballados out here, okay? But I think Osmiomancy lends itself to actually using Cold Snap grenades like Cold Snap grenades, not turning them into turrets, although a lot of people do that all the same, which is fine. But now, I think Osmiomancy can probably be a bit more about Cold Snap grenades and using Cold Snap grenades, where Rime Coat can actually be the Bleak Watcher exotic now, instead of Osmiomancy trying to juggle both. Next, we're going to move to Titan, who have a bit more of an interesting exotic, Blast Wave Striders. Essentially, you charge this armor with kills, and then when it's charged, you can slide or deal explosive self-damage to rocket jump backwards and launch a bunch of stasis everywhere, and also deal a bunch of damage. And you get frost armor from it, and you get damage resistance to your own explosives. So first off, these do take a little while to charge. It's not like 2 or 3 kills and you're good to go. It's more like 10, something like that. But as the exotic says, when your meter is full, you can just do a little slide. You're going to fly backwards and boom, bunch of damage, bunch of stasis crystals everywhere. And then you just do it all over again. You can see me try this out with a consecration slam for a little double, triple damage action on my slide into uppercut. But outside of master or GM content, I don't really see the average red bar enemy surviving all 3 of those hits, the wave, the stasis, and then the slam. It kind of reminds me of my old stasis Titan build, where the whole idea was to just create as many stasis crystals as possible for AoE damage. This definitely helps facilitate that. You could do maybe like a cryoclasm better slides situation, and you slide into your own crystals, combo that with Howl of the Storm, which, you know, I know those aren't the greatest aspects in the world, but I'm just kind of looking for just synergies here. Diamond Lance and Tectonic Harvest are definitely a bit stronger overall aspects, though, and you can probably upkeep Frost Armor quite a lot, and Frost Armor is pretty heavily featured in the seasonal artifact, as we'll discuss. Throw on Aggro Scepter, you're probably doing pretty well for yourself. So it is possible to have an accidental trigger of this, as you might have seen in my gameplay. It's any kind of explosive self-damage that happens. Now, that doesn't happen a ton, but an easy example might be shooting a target point blank with a rocket sidearm. Those things hurt you as well if you're right next to an enemy as you shoot it, but generally speaking, I think the accidental triggers will be relatively rare. Right now, with my limited time with the exotic, I'm kind of on the this does something neat, but I'm not sure where it fits just yet train. It doesn't have that clear-cut synergy that the Warlock or Hunter exotic does. So I'm interested in seeing if this does find a place into people's kits, or if it's just going to be deemed an interesting effect with no real greater purpose than that. Finally, Hunters, you have the Mask of Fealty, where your Withering Blades hits and bounces create a small crystal and refund some melee energy. Using Withering Blade to shatter crystals or frozen targets releases a spread of Withering Blades. So you throw a blade at a target, a frozen target, or a crystal, and then out comes a bunch of Withering Blades, which is neat, but we'll see how good it actually is. Now, unfortunately, there was an issue with my Hunter clip on this exotic, so I am borrowing from my friend Leopard here, who is a bit new to the capture scene, to the capture event scene, so look, I got what I got, okay? So, you're probably like, oh, this might be cool with the prismatic setup that Hunters use with Winter Shroud and dodging a lot and punching and blah, blah, blah. Or maybe you weren't, I don't know. But part of what makes that build work is the melee to class ability chaining, back and forth, which runs Combination Blow. With this exotic, we need to run Withering Blade, and we need to run not Liar's Handshake or some kind of exotic class item either. Now, you could probably run this in Prismatic if you really wanted to force the issue, but I'm going to lean more towards a pure stasis setup for this build as a result. We got Winter Shroud with Grim Harvest, maybe Touch of Winter instead of Winter Shroud to guarantee some more frozen targets with your grenade, whether it's Glacial for crystals or Duskfield for a single crystal or Cold Snap to just freeze targets outright. Now, considering how much Frost Armor stuff is in the artifact, you might want to invest into Frost Armor fragments, like Rime or Chains, maybe Fractures, but if you wanted to forego that for more Shattering or Melee / class ability energy gains, I could see that as well. Again, I didn't really get to do too much testing of all the different variations of this setup. I barely got to capture what I did. But after digging through all of the stasis fragments, there is a ton of room to explore with this exotic, whether you want to go into more Frost Armor or heavy ability energy gains or freeze effect heavy. I'm going to leave it open-ended for now since we're going to have this in our hands pretty soon anyway, but I'm probably looking forward to trying this one out the most because I think it has the most potentially interesting results. Next, we're going to talk about the weapon Alethonium. Let's check that one. Was I correct? Pronunciation. Okay, it's just a quick sidebar. I'm trying to just find how to pronounce this word because I don't know how to say it. And it says the American, not the English, the American pronunciation of the word Alethonium. I'm going to guess it. I'm going to say alethonym is not available, but here's some information on how to pronounce the word the in American English. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. No, I wanted to really know how to say the. Let's call it alethonym. How about that? Alethonym. Truly, I wish I had more to say about this weapon, but despite its very cool looks and its very stasis theme, this weapon does not have any super crazy stasis effect. Instead, it is an ammo generating weapon. You kill stuff to collect vestiges, then when you're in between 50 and 99% energy on vestige, you can hold reload to charge it, and then your next shot will spawn special ammo. If you do it at 100%, it's heavy ammo. Now, it is a primary ammo grenade launcher, so you just shoot this thing forever like a Fighting Lion situation, but otherwise, yeah, it makes ammo. Yeah, that's not a horrible thing. We only have so many makes ammo type effects in the game, so if people want to play a support role, that's cool. But I will admit, I was hoping for something a bit more stasis-y, as opposed to, yeah, it just makes some ammo. So maybe the catalyst will do something with stasis. I don't know. Next up, we got the artifact. Ignore any dev type things like $signs and all this. This was an old build. It's obviously not going to have any of that stuff in the live game, but I don't want to take individual screenshots because I'm lazy. First off, it does feel like Bungie is experimenting with some armor set bonus type things, but ones that seem to not completely suck, like getting more currency of something you're not going to care about in a couple of weeks, you know, stuff like that, or like, oh, a little more XP during a whatever. For example, Total Carnage. If you finish a powerful combatant, you get some temporary damage resistance, but with 2 pieces of Shade Stalker armor, you get more damage resist, and you get some health. Another example, Fell the Revenant. More weapon damage to Scorn. Wearing Shade Stalker armor increases the bonus. Nothing too flashy, but they're trying at least somewhat more interesting stuff, and I'm hoping this trial can lead to something a bit more significant down the road, because the basic stuff they've done so far has been a complete non-factor. Otherwise, this thing is loaded with stasis stuff. One with Frost. Gain reload speed and stability with stasis weapons while you have Frost armor. Wind Chill. Rapid stasis weapon crits give you Frost armor with the ability to boost this effect with Episode 2's feature called Tonics, which were discussed in the teaser thing Bungie did a while ago. There are several artifact perks that can be boosted with Tonics, by the way. I'm not going to mention every single one, but you'll see them as I hover over them. Crystalline Converter. Gather stasis shards to convert them into stasis crystals when you use your melee. That might work pretty nicely with the Hunter exotic. And you got Armor of Aramis. While you have Frost armor, taking critical damage emits a freezing burst from you. Hail the Storm. Shattering crystals releases shards of ice that damage and slow. Brain Freeze. Frozen enemies become surrounded by a slowing fog which can hit other enemies. Conductive Cosmic Crystal. Arc and Void abilities do more to stasis debuffed enemies. You got Served Cold. Stasis Shards give you class energy. Void Breaches give you melee energy. There's also some Void things in the artifact as well. A lot of stasis stuff. Decent mix of offensive defense, stuff that can chain into each other as well, like Wind Chill and one with Frost and Armor of Aramis. Plenty to work with here. Grenade launcher enjoyers get some stuff in the artifact as well. Rapid impacts, dealing damage with the GL, gives you reload speed with GLs. Weak and clear, using a GL to damage a champion or boss or break a shield weakens them. This plays nicely with Power from Pain. Rapid final blows against weakened enemies give you Devour, and boosted can give you a Void Breach on top of that. Kinetic impacts. Sustained heavy GL damage causes a shockwave that hits nearby enemies. This is kinetic tremors on a grenade launcher. Definitely a good amount of stuff to experiment with. Perhaps this could be testing the waters for some future stasis buffs. Stasis, it's okay. It's okay. It's been outclassed by Strand and Prismatic and has been for a while now. I didn't get to use anything from the artifact during my time, otherwise I would give you more information on these things, but we'll talk build crafting a bit more when the episode actually launches and we can get our hands on this stuff next week. These were the heavy hitter items that I got to learn during my time checking out episode 2 a little bit early. Again, I did get to play a little bit of the story just so we can start learning about the tonics system, but that's some stuff we're going to cover when episode 2 actually launches next week. It is not too complex, I promise. I wouldn't really worry about it too much. I'll explain everything next week. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you next time.